Yep.
Yes.
All right, this one, the Dune City Council regular meeting Wednesday, September 12th, 2018 to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Forsyth,
Here.
Council President Sheldon Meyer,
Present.
Councilor Tom Allen,
Here.
Councilor Alan Montgomery,
Here.
Councilor Susan Snow here. And for the record, Councilor Orr was here but has a conflicting meeting tonight, so he excused himself to go to the other meeting, and Councilor Wells is also excused. He called and let me know that he was not going to be available for this meeting.
Thank you. If you rise and pledge allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda
With amended.
with amended bills of the session.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, is approved. Jamie, would you announcements, please?
Certainly. The next Planning Commission special session is tentatively scheduled for Monday, September 24th at 5 p.m. New draft FEMA flood maps have been released, and a public meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 18th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Florence Event Center, where property owners and other interested parties can provide comments and ask questions to improve the maps to ensure their accuracy. Dune City property owners who are directly impacted by the map changes should have received a letter from Dune City with a copy of the portion of the maps that show the impacts to their property. Residents can contact City Hall for further information. Volunteers have scheduled a trash pickup on roads around Woahink Lake for Saturday, October 6th. Everyone is to meet at the boat landing at Honeyman at 11 a.m. and they should be done by about 2 p.m. or perhaps earlier. At this time, it is unknown if another plastics count will be taken. Be sure to wear bright clothing and gloves and bring supplies. Safety vests are available for borrowing here at City Hall during our office hours from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, except holidays. September 16th through the 22nd has been declared Home Inventory Week by the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation. Knowing that disasters can and do happen, residents of Dune City are encouraged to build an inventory of their belongings by taking photos of each room in your home, paying close attention to what's on the walls, in closets, and storage spaces, and to write a brief description of each item, noting the make, model, price, and other details that might help should filing a claim become necessary. Next, meet with your insurance company or agent to make sure you have the right coverage and will know what to expect when and if you should ever have to file a claim. And one additional announcement that is not on the agenda. I received notice today that the city is once again a winner of the 2018 CIS League of Oregon Cities Annual Safety Award. And our award will be presented at the LOC Annual Conference at the Hilton in Eugene on Friday, September 28th from 5:45 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. And a representative for our city is invited to attend, but needs to RSVP.
Excellent. Thank you. Citizen input on items not listed on the agenda.
We have one person.
All right. John Scott.
I wish to speak on the animal feeding ordinance. Is it
Oh, okay.
appropriate?
Let's do that when we get to the animal feeding thing. I'm sure there'll be lively conversation about that. Thank you. New business. Proclamation. Home Inventory Week. Almost sounds like we just did that. All right. Okay. Whereas homes should be safe and trustworthy place, but
No, first
do
one,
you want me to read it?
the one before that. There's two proclamations this time. Oh, I put them in your file backwards then. Should be behind that then.
Okay.
Sorry.
No? There we go. No, because after that's an email from you. National Preparedness Month. That's what we're going for.
Yes,
Home inventory. Excellent, okay.
well, home inventory week, which is, yeah.
Whereas September is organized as National Preparedness Month, and whereas Oregonians have witnessed and experienced national disasters in our own community, and whereas every community member can take active steps to protect their families and neighbors from natural and man-made disasters, and whereas every family and business in Dune City is encouraged to take active steps to be financially secure after a disaster, and whereas every community member is encouraged to make sure that their property is insured against fire, flood, earthquakes, and storms, and whereas every community member is encouraged to create a home inventory to include as part of their disaster preparedness kit. Now, therefore, I, Robert Forsyth, Mayor of Dune City, do hereby declare that the week of September 16th through the week of September 22nd, 2018 will be known as Home Inventory Week, and join cities across Oregon to encourage everyone to build a home inventory of their personal property and seek within the insurance agent to make sure that they financially prepared for such a disaster. All right. Domestic violence. That one I have. Whereas homes should be safe and trustworthy place, but to many Oregonians it is instead fraught with terror due to domestic violence. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security, and humanity due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, economic, and psychological control and abuse of children and the elderly. And whereas domestic violence is not limited to physical or verbal abuse, but includes intimate terrorism, such as isolation, covert control, reproductive coercion, economic and sexual exploitation, and online abuse, such as stalking, humiliation, doxing, rape, death, threats, and these forms of terror are often unrecognized by our law and norms. And whereas domestic violence efforts not only the person being abused, but also children, neighbors, friends, family, co-workers, faith communities, and others, seeing or hearing abuse can be partially terrifying, particularly terrifying for children and people with trauma histories, and children witnessing violence and recognized as a form of abuse itself. And whereas the tirade of forced financial dependence, reproductive abuse, and financial isolation creates monumental barriers to leading an abusive relationship, and dangerous situations are further exacerbated by worsening economic realities, especially in the lack of truly affordable housing. And whereas it is supervisor of violence and the advocates who partner and then daily with them daily on safety planning and support measures, to whom we look for guidance on raising awareness of domestic violence and ultimately working to build community norms and healthy relationships. And whereas Women's Space continues to provide safety, hope, and healing of domestic violence supervisors of all genders through advocacy and support and focuses on education prevention and has served thousands of people in Lane County for more than 40 years. And whereas too many Oregonians have lost their lives due to domestic violence. We remember those women and men and children who have died and are taking firm stance to prevent domestic violence. And whereas the impact and the cost of domestic violence is widely ranging and devastating, directly affecting individuals, children, society, and its community throughout the United States and world. Now, therefore, I, Robert Forsyth, Mayor of Dune City, now hereby proclaim October 2018 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Dune City and urge all people to actively participate in the scheduled activities and programs to work towards eradicating domestic violence, improving victim safety, and holding predatory domestic abuse accountable for their actions against individuals, victims, and our society. October regular session of City Council.
Okay, at this point in time, we have 3 confirmed absences of council members and the mayor.
So that'll be
And
October the 10th?
October, yes. I think.
Yeah, 10th.
Yes. And so it becomes imperative for everybody else to show up or we won't have a quorum. So the question is, do you want to try and reschedule the October meeting to a different day in October? Do you want to go ahead and try and have the meeting? And if so, who will preside? Because the two of the 3 that will be gone are the mayor and the president of city council.
Who would normally be next up?
I don't know. Duke did it last time.
Duke, I would
Yeah.
think, is the
Because he's been on the council the longest, yeah.
because I'm gonna be gone all the way till like the 28th, so rescheduling isn't gonna,
Wouldn't do any good.
no,
Me too.
same with you, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of making sure that we have 4 people here and, you know, Duke is good at it.
My concern is Councilor Montgomery.
Okay.
He comes and goes so quickly. He gets called out to do work and things.
Yeah, that's true too.
I don't expect to be gone.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, if you find that you are, as soon as you find out that you have to be gone, would you let me know so I can make sure everybody gets advised and we just skip the October meeting and I'll go to Florida now?
Yeah, you don't have somebody that's actually bipolar. That could-
Yeah, vote twice. One for and one against.
That's right. All right, so Duke, since the fact he isn't here, we elect him to take care of
Okay.
October.
Good.
Duke will preside, all right.
So that's still on then.
Yeah.
All right, for now it is still on, unless we hear otherwise from any of the remaining 4.
Yeah, anybody that, for some reason. can't.
Because one more is gonna do it.
That's right, yeah. Regardless of who it is, all right. Budget meeting,
Yes, we need
budget
to,
committee meeting.
we need to schedule one, but not until September is over. So you may wanna look at November.
Yeah, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it does. The November regular council meeting will be November 14th. So we can do early in the day, the same day, or you can split it out to another day or whatever. I don't think I have anything on calendar.
I think last time we just did an hour earlier or something like that.
Exactly.
didn't we?
Yeah.
like to do.
Yeah,
November?
Yeah,
November
14th.
14th is our normal meeting if we come in an hour early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I will be sure to get the materials out, now listen, I'm making this promise. I will do everything in my power to get the materials out to you in advance so that you'll have time to review everything and be familiar.
Okay.
Okay, in your packets, I'm assuming we're moving on now, yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
okay. We have received a written correspondence from a local resident regarding a request for an ordinance prohibiting the feeding of wild animals except birds. That request did come from Mr. Scott, so you may wish to call
Sure.
him
John,
forward.
why don't you come up and tell us what you have against him?
Wow. Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Isn't that how the Congress works?
I wrote the letter because, I've lived in Dune City about 20 years, and there's always been deer here, but now the population is really exploding.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons why it is. One is that an urban environment is conducive to a deer population because you don't have as many prime predators and things that eat them. The other thing is we have a lot of people that are feeding them. And ODF&W really discourages that. And it creates some problems because it clusters population of deer. They spread disease. If you look at some of the deer, they've got a real rough looking coat. That's a wasting disease and it's communicable between them. And the other thing it does is it can attract predators. And we've had a few cougar sightings around here. And these guys wouldn't be here if it weren't for all the little fawns running around. We still have spotted fawns even now. So they're, it's a big deal. Rick Reedy loves it. His body shop, his own body shop. I mean, he'll tell you that it's a good source of business to him. It's about $3,000 every time, one gets hit. But
Have we seen him out here feeding deer?
But if you drive down, if you drive down Clear Lake a lot like I do, I don't know, it's probably every month or so there's a dead deer laying on the shoulder and the county guys come out and pick them up.
It has been this year, yeah.
Hmm?
That has been this year, absolutely.
Yeah. And I stopped and talked to the county guys one day and I said, what do you do with these? They said, we're gonna spot over here, out Ada Road. And he said, it's out there a couple of miles and we just go out and dump them. They're gonna place it, maybe an old landing or something out there. But he said they're there quite a bit. And, I don't know what we'd have to go through to get this non-feeding ordinance. Florence has one, Eugene has one, Seaside has one, Portland, Bend, Baker City. There's quite a few of them do this because it's a problem. And I would seriously hope that we could do the same thing here because a lot of people just don't realize, the problems they create by feeding deer, other than just being a real nuisance. And I think we should consider it. We could probably get somebody from ODF&W to come down and give us a little wisdom, one of their biologists, because they're pretty much against it. We have a lot of animals here in Dune City. We got cougars and bobcats, coyotes and bears and a lot of things, but really the deer are about the only ones that are big trouble, or obvious things. I think we can do quite a bit just through an educational program. And also, I think we're working on an IGA with Wayne County for an animal control person or something, aren't we?
Well, it's still being discussed.
Yeah, but that could cure that too. Any complaints, but you see people, Bird Park, there's a guy right there at Bird Park, got a couple of little 4 or 5 year old kids. And they're standing right in the middle of a herd of deer, feeding them. And boy, one of those does could just pop them in the head in a heartbeat. Same way it's a little hard on people with little bitty dogs too, because they can get pretty well stomped. But anyway, that's all I had to say, and hopefully we can proceed. If there's anything else I can do, I'd be happy to volunteer to do it.
All right, thank you, John.
Yep.
You could be our animal control officer.
We don't go into that.
Thank you, John. Discussion? How do you folks feel?
Is it not already illegal in Oregon to feed them? I know the woman up in Yachts got busted for feeding 30-some bears several years ago. Or is that specifically bears?
I believe that it is goes by county, city, that sort of, only in that I sat in with Florence when we wrote the non-feeding of wild animals in Florence. So I'm not sure whether it's state or not, but do you know offhand, Jamie, off the top of your head?
I think it is. I have received complaints from individuals in the neighborhoods where somebody is feeding the deer and the deer are inundating the entire neighborhood and frightening, dogs and things. And so I have called the wildlife department, and they do come out and do a check if you call them, but it doesn't usually amount to much, and it rarely actually causes people to stop feeding.
So would an ordinance benefit it in any way?
My concern is it even enforceable if we had one.
We have no way of enforcing it. We
Right.
don't have a person to do it. If we have an IGA, as Mr. Scott suggests, that could work.
Yes.
But to me, it's a matter of education to the public.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Please don't feed the deer. I don't know, maybe signs could be placed by someone, but,
I liked your suggestion of bringing in an ODFW guy.
and that would be fine, but I wouldn't think that it would last very long. I don't.
Yeah, they're too cute and cuddly. My wife absolutely hates feeding them her roses and flowers.
Yeah.
They eat our apples a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're getting fat on our apples. So ordinance,
It's just
without a compliance officer, we're kind
It's an
of.
enforcement problem.
But I think we probably ought to do something educational wise.
Yes.
We need, this is something that even when I lived in town in Florence, it was, you saw people feeding bears, you saw people, but what was odd is they always do an exception for birds. But people would go out there on that one section of rhododendron and throw bread out to the seagulls. Well, seagulls have been getting diabetes now for about 10 or 15 years out of the process. And what happens is it deforms the birds. The eggs don't have hard shells. I mean, feeding people food to animals, processed people food is horrible for the animals. But even with their, they had their ordinance, but then they did an exception for birds. And so, well, I'm sure they meant bird feeders, but they didn't say that. And so people go out there, and it's very harmful to the wildlife. So if an ordinance isn't in our future because of staffing, I certainly would love to see continued education on it.
There's some processed food that isn't even good for human beings.
And bears cannot fly,
Yeah.
like the seagulls.
But I would think that ODF come down and have an open meeting or make sure that people know that there's going to be somebody here to talk about it. And then maybe also in the next newsletter to have a follow-up on it. And then Jared will do a great idea in terms of in the paper to talk about what the ordinance might look like or, that sort of stuff. Again, it's an educational effort. I don't know how to enforce it either, but.
Jamie, could you, for us, look up the statute, the state statute that may cover this, to make sure there is or isn't one?
Okay.
So that if there is in our education, we can look towards that, look towards ODF and W with it. I mean, so that we're fully aware of what we're dealing with this education. You don't want to beat people over the head with ordinances, but at the same time, you need kind of a backup for when education fails.
Right.
Could we get signs from ODFW?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At the port, we got all sorts of different things for free from the state like that, so I don't know if we can or not.
Yes, if I may, I do like the idea of posting a sign, and you could actually post a sign on the signs that already have the deer on it,
Good point.
right? I mean, you just put underneath it, just do not feed.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I mean, that would work. It's a simple fix. I don't know what it would cost to do something like that, but there are plenty of those signs around, and the posts are already there. They would just have to be put up that says, do not feed.
Sure.
So could we get those from the highway department? And it'd have to be approved by the highway department to put it on their sign. Sure.
Yeah.
But if we got it from them,
Let's find out. That'd be cool. I think it's a great deal if, Jamie, if you can
Yeah.
make a few phone calls and find out for us what's available.
Yeah.
Because it's a growing problem. I mean, they come through, we have about 9 deer every night that come through our property.
Yes, we have the same thing.
And it's the first, I mean, I've only lived here 3 years, and every year I've seen twins.
Yeah.
I mean, we've named them, you know, we see them grow up. I mean, it's just expanding and expanding. And whether it's from people feeding it or what, or not having enough predators or what have you, I don't know, but we've got to get, I mean, this would be one step to really help that.
You have a couple bucks there too, and when they're in running season, they can be pretty dangerous.
Yes,
that's
and our little meadow, we watched 3 of them challenging each other down there just the other day. It's keep the dog inside and.
Yeah, I really think the request from the state in terms of if there is an ordinance already on the state books about not feeding them would be a good thing to know. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, moving on. Thank you, John, for bringing it up. Citizens' request for an ordinance prohibiting the raising of chickens in the city limits.
You'll find this in your packet.
Yes, sir, sir.
I have a feeling Ron is going to speak about the chicken ordinance. Do you want to sign up to speak, please?
Chicken ordinance.
Where?
Right here.
Here, just so we get a record of it, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
May I say something?
You may.
I should have said it before the prior agenda item. This is a new thing for Dune City, kind of. We've gotten a lot of verbal allegations that we aren't paying attention to our residents when they express concerns and ideas. And so in order to try and avoid that criticism in the future, when I get anything, it's coming to the city council now. So that's what's going on. So, no, just as a preface, that's what we're doing, as we're making everybody's voice heard.
Well, we tried to delete your emails, but now you're printing, so.
Yeah.
All right. The chicken ordinance, or request to have a chicken ordinance. Tell us what it's about, Jamie.
Mr. Bang has expressed concern because of the cougar and bear that, well, can I just read his real short?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. It says, thanks for your response regarding my concern about a cougar sighting here on Woodland Lane. Having owned property here for over 32 years, I offer the following. Cougars and bears migrate through here on a regular basis. We have had cougars marking territory in 2 specific trees just about every other week for an extended period of time. We have had muddy cougar tracks in the bed of our pickup and tracks to our front door.
Mm-hmm.
We have had one of our cameras catch a very large male cougar in our driveway during the day. I do not wish to file a complaint about the rooster noise, which was his original concern. But to just say that having chickens in our residential area is not a good idea. They attract undesirables such as bears, cougars, raccoons, skunks, and rats. The benefits of having fresh fertilized eggs are not worth the risk from attracting these animal types.
Thank you. So actually, the concern, the original concern was the noise of the rooster, not.
Right, and the rooster has been relocated.
Okay.
Into a frying pan.
I don't know. I don't.
All right. But we have an ordinance that states that you can raise chickens, rabbits, that sort of thing.
Right,
Limits.
14, total 14 small.
Oh, okay. Any thoughts on that? I don't raise animals, so. What about the rest of you?
You've heard my stance 1,000 times. There isn't a pet problem good taxidermists can't fix.
Yeah.
I'm all for, I don't have any chickens at this current time. I've had them prior. I'm all for them. Uh, And I'm not for a conditional use permit requirement. The conditional use permit that just went a couple weeks ago, or excuse me, months ago for the bees was a significant cost for a little bit of bees, and a significant cost would be for a small amount of eggs, and we would end up just basically taxing them out of existence. Yes, you can have them, no, you can't afford them.
Right. Ron, did you want to step up and
We've been living in this den city for years, since our house was built in '69. We've had no problems with cougars, no problems with bears. I recently got 15 chickens, had them for about, well, 4, and we got 4, and had them about 5 years. No problems with bears, nothing. The only thing that the bears get into is the garbage and the berries and everything else. Neighbors have chickens. I don't have a problem with them chickens going over to my house. I keep mine locked up all the time. If you lock them up, you should have no problems.
I think being in a kind of a rural area that we live in, that kind of would be expected by neighbors and friends. I mean, there's going to people would be raising chickens, rabbits, that sort of thing. That's kind of why we're out here, you know, so that we don't have the confined areas and things. Noise issues are a different sort of thing, but that doesn't seem to be the issue here. I don't. What's the consensus of the rest of the folks? I don't see a reason to undo our ordinances at this point. Go ahead, Tom.
Prior to retiring here, I lived in Hillsboro, Oregon, and I owned a ranch there for 26 years. I raised Hereford steers, chickens, pheasant, all kinds of stuff. I found that the chickens drove me crazy if a rooster took off crowing all the time. So I just eliminated the rooster for a while. Still got the eggs, just didn't get any new chicks. But then I could go borrow a neighbor's rooster if I had to. It was never an issue. I just can't imagine picking out chickens and not going after everything else. It's not, it just doesn't make any sense to me, or to the people, I think.
I make a motion for no action.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. However, we do, if it's a noise issue, I assume that you're.
It's usually pretty simple.
Okay.
First of all, you have to locate the animal.
Right. Okay.
And figure out where it is, but it's pretty simple. You just call them. They usually.
Okay.
Let them in for-
I have no roosters, so
Do what?
I have no roosters, so I'm out of that noise.
All right. Thank you. Census Bureau creation, local count committee?
Yes, in an effort to make sure that their numbers are accurate, they have, the United States Department of Commerce is encouraging local jurisdictions to establish a, what are they calling it? A complete count committee for the 2020 census. There's a flyer in the materials I provided you on how to do that. To my knowledge, we haven't really done anything like this in the past. However, city staff did help a lot. Yeah, the last census, and was required to do quite a bit. So perhaps what they're getting at is maybe city staff could use some volunteers to help city staff get done what they want to get done.
Perhaps we could use the Florida model?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the Florida model. There you go. Go ahead.
Take out another one. So are you looking for a counselor to do this, or a volunteer from?
I just want to know if you want me to pursue it. I mean, what I envision is, maybe putting an ad in the paper that says, hey, we're looking for volunteers to help out, this kind of thing. I don't see them advertising, but they are currently hiring. So they're looking for people, so
2 years.
at least that's what it said in the notice. And then if you know anybody, make sure you let them know that they're hiring.
Well, why don't we just, in our next newsletter, put in there and see what we get, see if we get a response.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, we're not so big.
We could have everybody over for a barbecue in County Ed.
See who shows up. Okay, referral of proposed ordinance regarding flood insurance.
That's the colorful document that's on the dais. Basically, what's before you, and I didn't bring my copy. Oh, I did. Okay. Everything that is in black is our current existing code. Everything in red is what the state is proposing we add. And the reason you have it is because the open house for public input will be September 18th. Based on the amount of comments they received and the changes to be done, they will take time and make those changes, but then they will propose, their proposed rule will be to adopt what they've created. Once they adopt that, there is a period, an appeal time within which people can appeal their decision. But once that runs, the city only has 60 days to adopt it, or you have to pay fines, or, well, first they would cancel all flood insurance in the city, and the city would have to pay like 10 grand or something to get it all back rolling again. So the idea is to get this going now, so that, because we have to go through the CAC process, we have to go through the 2 public hearings, we have to do Measure 56 notice, we have to do all those different things, and we have to have a quorum at all meetings along the way. So I am suggesting that we just go ahead and I ask that the council refer this to the CAC, let the CAC get working on it. They can make their recommendation to the Planning Commission. We could probably, it's cheaper if we know exactly when the Planning Commission and the City Council would have their public hearings, because we can then publish once instead of twice. But as we go and see how long the CAC takes and what's going on with FEMA, whether they had any appeals or if it's moving forward with gusto, then we can do scheduling. But if we don't get started, 60 days is not long enough, period.
And who's putting the 60 days on us? State?
The United States,
The feds?
yes.
And what is the state saying about it?
The state says, get busy, people. They're gonna help us. That's why they gave us the language. They went through and did all the research for what the feds are gonna require, and they gave us the draft language and said, here, use this, that meets all the Fed requirements, and that way you'll have it. They strongly recommend that we get started on it right away, which we did, and so that we can keep it on the track to keep moving so we don't miss out in the long run.
I think that referring it to the CAC and then through Planning Commission makes sense. And we ought to get started on it ASAP.
One thing interesting about the map as it relates to Dune City residents is the only changes were to remove 46 properties off the list. There were no additions. So that benefits us in a lot of ways, but the people who still are in the zone and still need the insurance won't be able to get it if the city doesn't do their part.
Sure. And, I have no problem with any of those, but just like the state was doing to us, the feds are doing to the state, and just seems to me that there should be somebody at the state going, 60 days is not enough. Hold your horses. I mean, we did this with the state. I would hope that there's somebody at the state going, all of the compliant, going through everything that they've spent years doing doesn't make it easy for us to go through in less than 60 days and enact.
Could Caddy or Arnie
That's what I'm wondering if,
or Peter
say, hey, wait a minute, we can't read this in 60 days. I mean, look at some of this stuff. I mean, and then we're gonna have to somehow adopt it, or, and I find it, I continue to use the word, I hate to, but it's somewhat draconian, This is obscene to think that we can digest all this and make sure that it's, worthy and allowed in 60 days. And I'd like to see, and not that we shouldn't get started and let's head down the road, but to be penalized like that because they gave us such short notice is, to me, it's shame on them, not on us. But let's get started, but I would really like to have our officials contacted about this and say, wait a minute, who's trying to make this, 120 days or 6 months? I mean, the feds didn't do this overnight. We shouldn't be required to do it overnight ourselves just because they want to. But then that's me.
I agree.
Would you like to see the letters before they go out?
Not necessarily. You can, contact them. I mean, just don't cuss at them. That's my job. They can't dock my pay, so.
You can curse, but don't cuss.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, looks like we're ready for executive session held pursuant to ordinance 192.6602H to conduct with the council concerning legal rights and duties of the public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Also, ORS 192.6602F to consider information for records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Again, we reserve the right to return to open meeting after the executive session. Staff and board are allowed to the session. Media is allowed, but is not able to report on the contents of such meeting. And Alan will entertain you while we're gone.
Except that he can be in for the second discussion, so I can come get him.
Yeah, we'll send somebody out for the second.
Okay.
All right, so we'll adjourn for the executive session at 6:42.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Being good.
And parted out.
Yeah.
All right, let's return to the regular session at 7:08 and start with old business. Nothing. There's no action from the executive session. So now we're into animal control IGA ordinance.
At the last meeting, you asked me to provide you a copy of the Lane County Code
Yes.
and our former ordinance.
Uh-huh.
So that is in your packets, and if you have not had a chance to fully chew on it, and I know we talk about it in the future, it's up to you.
Has everybody had a chance to go through Lane County's code and digest it, or do we need to?
Not extensively.
As I remember, it was like 7 pages long.
It was a long one.
No, ours is the long one.
Yeah, and a lot of similarities.
Yes.
Well, I would hope. Are we ready to discuss it, or should we move that further out, folks?
I would ask that we table it. I mean, I was able to go give a cursory look through it, but not in detail.
All right.
Second.
Anybody else have an opinion? All right. All in favor to table it?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Let's do that, Jamie, and we'll promise that you'll read through that and make some notes so that your work hasn't gone.
Given that 3 of you are being in big town.
Yeah, we'll probably be November.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right. Down to reports. Mayor's report. I don't have anything. I know Jamie does from a meeting that she went to about our deal with the state, so we'll let her bring that up. I am going through a lot of my in-law stuff. The Murs family has lived in this area since 1923, and I'm finding all sorts of documentation. And I'll told Jamie and the board that I'll be bringing in a bunch of different documentation, a lot of it on some structures and things that were built way before the city was a city. So it should prove interesting. Mainly, it's so smelly, I wanted that one out.
Thank you so much. Good thinking. As long as it doesn't smell like bear, okay?
Community Center, Commissioner Wells is not here. Water quality.
Water continues to be looking good. All the city reports are above where they need to be. We're still in drinkable conditions.
That's good news. Public Works.
Work continues on Keachnarum Road, and work will begin, the beginning work will begin on Huckleberry, probably beginning this week. Basically, it's brush removal. At this point, it will just be brush removal and some tree removal. And I will try and get letters out that will give you a better idea when the actual digging and the road blockages will occur. But yeah, that's going to be, and that one's the one with the grant funding.
Energy, or emergency energy.
Energy. I have no energy.
I have no energy to go to the emergency service.
I was unable to attend the West Lane Emergency Operations Group meeting on the 20th. The agenda packet is included, but since then I received an email from the chairman of that committee, and they are looking at the rules of procedures and the agreements for members. And it looks to me, from what I can see, and I did not look at it really carefully, but just a quick cursory review, as Councilor Snowbird referred, it looks like she's just making changes to make it match what's actually happening now.
Okay.
So it's nothing real major, but I will look at that more closely. I am sure that once decisions are made about the language, I have to come back to you guys anyway, and we'll have to bring it back. So you'll be able to see it at that point in time. The next WELOG meeting will be held at the fire station in Florence on Monday, September 17th at 10 a.m. I think. I'm guessing that that is the location where it will be held. I haven't heard otherwise. Moving on to my report. There were 11 permits issued in August, 1 manufactured home, 8 structural, 4 electrical, 2 mechanical, and 3 plumbing. The manufactured home was the only brand new build. There were 8 public works permits issued in August, 5 grading, 1 driveway, and 1 vegetation removal in the right of way. The CAC met on August 20th, and it finished its review of the written recommendations regarding Chapter 155.1, Point 2, and Point 3, and referred the recommendations to the Planning Commission. Basically, the CAC has finished their initial work. That was the charge, was to do 155, 1, 2, and 3. And so they're waiting for the next charge, which I'm guessing is going to be this.
Yeah.
But I think we have to advertise anyway because, and kind of treat it as a new CAC. Sure. Because they finished the work on the prior, but I'm not sure exactly. So we just want to try and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Letters have gone out to the parcels about FEMA. I talked about that earlier. And let's see. We have a new part-time administrative assistant named Monica Severino. She started on August 27th, and she works 5 hours on Monday and 5 hours on Thursday every week, excluding holidays. Complaints in August include a well drilling truck parked on a city road for more than 2 weeks, fireworks being set off, speedboat racing on Mohegan, and in that regard, I have now been informed by state police that they should contact the sheriff's office and file a report. And I'm going to say that one more time because when the sheriff was here, he said that surprisingly, Dune City has little or no crime. And the reason is because they go on the number of reports that are filed. Well, if you're like me, oh, well, I have to go online to file it, it's a pain, nobody's gonna pay any attention anyway, you don't do it. So now we look like we are a fabulous community living with no crime because nobody reports it. So instead of calling me, please go online and file the report with the sheriff's office so that they know that it isn't all warm and fuzzy and pleasant over here all the time. Thank you. Get off my soapbox. The owner of the truck was contacted, the truck was moved, the owner of the chickens were located and contacted, and then the rooster has been otherwise located. The question regarding allowing chickens in the city came before you tonight. Most of the maintenance of the public facilities during the month of August were on Keachley Arm Road. However, brushing, sweeping, and trimming has continued on the other roads. I attended the Oregon Coastal Caucus Economic Summit in Lincoln City. And not only were there many opportunities for networking, but I learned more about the legislative priorities at both the federal and state levels, learned more about broadband opportunities in rural areas, the most recent legislative and rulemaking changes involving marijuana, efforts being taken toward improving high school graduation rates, and was surprised to learn that Dune City is the poster child for the Building Codes Division issues. A panel discussion was held just on the BCD issue, and it appears promising that additional legal review of the constitutionality question will be taking place and that all parties will be sitting down to discuss and craft a resolution to the problems created by the BCD rulemaking and the Justice Department opinion.
Yay us.
Huh?
Yay us.
Yeah, yay us. It was surprising to be sitting there and then all of a sudden people behind you are patting you on the back. Right? Okay, the ballot question referrals have all been submitted and accepted by the county elections official and will appear on the general election ballot in November. The slate of individuals running for elected office in Dune City has been submitted for inclusion on the ballot for the November 6th general election. Candidates running are for mayor, Robert Forsyth; for city council, Sheldon Meyer, Duke Wells, and Susan Snow. Newsletters will be going out very soon. All copies have been made and the process of collating, folding, sealing, labeling, and sorting is now finished, and we are ready. I'm probably going to take them over to the post office tomorrow. I would like to convey a big public thank you to Permit Tech Denise Lafferty and Planning Secretary Rapunzel Oberholzer for taking on the additional duties required during my absence and during the vacancy of the administrative assistant position in the office. Denise has proven to be a fabulous addition to city staff and is a whiz at streamlining processes and saving time and money for the city while still providing high-quality service. Rapunzel, whom I refer to as Eagle Eye, does her utmost to keep me dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's to make sure all work products are done to the highest degree of accuracy. I thank them both for all they do. I couldn't do it without them. Counselor Snow, who serves as committee secretary to Troop 721 of the Boy Scouts, and I believe her husband is assistant scout leader, did I read that correctly? Has asked if there are any projects in the city that the scouts might work on as an Eagle Scout project. At one time, we had discussion about installing a half-court basketball court in Bird Park, which is on Hilltop Drive, or perhaps rebuilding the gazebo in Petersdorf Park. I'm here tonight asking you if there are other projects the council might suggest or might want to be identified. Can I get some thoughts on what you think? I can tell you that the neighbors on Hilltop, used to be we had like 2 kids there. Now just about everybody in the neighborhood has kids, and one of which is a contractor. And they have pretty much said they would help us if we would do that. They would help come put in the basketball hoop and all that stuff. And whatever paving or what. Sure. And then others like Norman at Ray Wells has also said that he would help to do that as well. So I think that is a doable project that we could work with that wouldn't cost the city a terribly high amount of money, but we may just want to wait. So it's whatever you want. I'm just open, looking for ideas.
I think, I think that kind of thing is always well and good. Usually though, the cost is in the 5 and 10 year maintenance, it's not in the installation. So it's how do we maintain these, you know, it's like the, you know, most expensive thing you can have is a free boat. You know,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I can tell you that in Bird Park, we finally did take out the rope swing at the insistence of CIS, which I understand. And also the tree died anyway, so we had to take that tree out. Which leaves a lot of open space.
But a half-court basketball, if that neighborhood has, you know, a lot of kids in it, I think that's probably a neat idea and would kind of roll into the Boy Scout kind of thing anyway, so I like it.
Okay. You
Me
guys-
too.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I will,
Get us more info.
I will do that.
Thanks.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Good of the order. Tom, anything? No? Sean?
Yes, I noticed today that my consulting and complaining to ODOT, one of our state agencies here in town, to have the sign that has forever misspelled gardener is now correctly spelled.
Good job.
I went in there about a month ago and said, I feel like an idiot living in a town where we can't even spell the names of towns, you know, north and south. And they listened to me, and we now have a new sign that has gardener spelled correctly. So as you go by there, take a peek at it.
That's why the universe felt better all of a sudden.
It looks good.
Every time I drove past there, I used to try to push out the words. The word, Gardner, you know, by reading it. Gardner, and it just, you know, people used to say, yeah, it's down to Gardner. I'm like, how do you get that? Oh, sorry. Okay, I apologize, but
That's fine.
Good job.
yeah, good, nicely done.
Alan?
Nothing for me.
Susan?
Nothing, sir.
All right, then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll stand adjourned at 7:24.
I stand adjourned, you're sitting adjourned.
Yeah.